So today we're going to go over, this is the third part of this series. I'm going to try to do one next week. I know it's not up there, but a lot has been going on. So that's why I haven't been able to. But if I'm not able to do one next week, we might have one in 2 weeks. I just have had some issues, like I said, going on. I might even have to run to my hometown, which is in Tennessee, this week. So it's been really, really not necessarily stressful. It's just a lot of stuff that's been happening. And because of that, that's why the group needs to get together and reorganize. And that's my fault, for that, because they've been begging me. They're like, hey, Jay, when are we going to do something? And I'm like, oh, but God's been getting on me, and God's good. So we're going to make this work. So anyway, let's do a quick recap. So in the first week, we talked about what is love, what do humans think is love, what does God think is love, and we need to understand this. We really need to break it down and make sure that we're clear on the fact that God doesn't see love as this emotional thing that we as humans get swept up in. Oh, I love him. Oh, I love her. Oh, we want to get married and have kids. But then, as soon as a person starts snoring next to you, you're like, I think I want to trade this one in, God. And God's not about that. God is not about that. He is there for you when you are good. He is there for you when you are bad, when you are believing bad things and doing bad things and going out into the world. Guess what? God still loves you. And not even does God just love you in those times, he still protects you. He still sends his grace upon you. He still sends you blessings. So even though he is mad at you at that point, he is still blessing you. And we really need to kind of understand this, especially as singles and especially as people that are saying, God bless me with somebody. Because if we're always saying, hey, bless me, bless me, bless me with somebody, and also as we've learned, you might think that God is bringing you a gift. You're saying, God, send me my man. God, send me my woman. So in your mind, you're thinking, okay, I'm being blessed. God is sending this blessing to me. But you have to change the way that you think and understand that you are also a blessing to someone else. And God gives good gifts to his children. He doesn't give bad gifts to his children. So if you want to be a good gift, you have to start looking at yourself, start looking and understanding about the way you love, the way you think, the way you work. Because at the end of the day, God can't do much for you. You can be sitting on your knees all the time, praying, fasting, all this other kind of stuff. But then if you are just the biggest jerk in the world, how can God give you to somebody? How can God bless another human being with you when you really wouldn't want you? So we need to start there. We need to understand love. We need to understand the fact that we are this gift, and we need to have a balance about ourselves, which brings up our next issue, which is not really an issue. And we also went over this a couple of weeks ago, but I wanted to recap. Do you really know you? We always ask God, oh, God, send me, for all the women, oh, this tall, handsome, smooth, charming, good looking, rich, all this types of thing, man. Okay, but then when that man comes in your life, can you even handle him? Can you keep up with him? A handsome man wants a beautiful woman. A handsome man, that has money, that has this, that has that, that has all these things. He's looking for a certain type of woman. Can you even handle him? And even once we go beyond that, the Atlanta Braves just won the World Series. So, awesome Atlanta Braves. I'm not a baseball fan, but still, that's awesome for the greater Atlanta area. But it was interesting because I did watch the ceremony and the parade, because even though I'm not an Atlanta Braves fan, we're still dealing with something that is, history in the making as far as, people in Atlanta are concerned. So when all the baseball players were walking down this red carpet to come inside of the stadium, some of them had their families, some of them did not have a family, but a lot of them had their families. They would have children with them, they would have their wives with them, sometimes they might have a brother with them. But here's the whole point I'm trying to make. If you as a lady were married to a Brave, one of these Atlanta Braves, could you handle that? Could you handle a man that's probably going to be gone, 3 months out of the year, every year? Okay, this is not going to change. This might be 20 years, 30 years, because people be in baseball a long time, and then they might join an organization. Could you travel if they get traded? Because if you are a baseball player's wife, your life is totally different, than a woman who's on track to be a CEO. Okay, so why is a person a good fit for you? Why are they not a good fit for you? What do you really feel when you're around somebody? Are you looking for somebody that's comfortable? Are you looking for somebody that reminds you of the person that you dated when you were 15? And honestly, that's what most people do. They're looking for the person when they were 15, 16 years old. Their dating habits have not grown up. And we need to understand this, because if you want to go forward and you really want to find what God is looking for, what God is probably going to send you is probably not something that you've ever been around before. And so you're going to have to open your mind and stop thinking very narrowly, but instead think broadly. Okay? So, which brings us into today, which is the first question that I have for you, to think about in your heart. See, the thing about when God talks about the kingdom of heaven, one of the things that he has kind of shown me is that the way that God works in one thing is pretty much the way that he works in almost all things. Okay, pretty much all things. So even though this passage is talking about the kingdom of heaven, trying to find that place in God, but this is also the type of place he wants us to love. He wants us to love like this. He wants us to think like this and move like this. We talk often about, where is God's treasure? And we say he has put them in earthen vessels. Okay, and for those that really recognize the understanding of that, then you recognize the fact that when God's saying, I'm putting my treasure in earthen vessels, he is basically saying, I put my love, my time, my energy, my understanding in humans. Okay, because I love them. People talk about in heaven, the streets are made of gold or crystal or whatever. People have different visions of heaven. But the bottom line is, how does God see treasure? How does he see gold? He walks on gold. He doesn't really care that much about gold. It's not like what we are doing down here on the earth. We're trying to search for certain things in the wrong places. And the reason why I want to bring this up here is because, is your treasure a person, love, children, a family, or is your treasure about you, money, cars, houses, things that honestly you probably could have or not have and still have a good life? Okay, you can be a multimillionaire living in your house by yourself, and we see this all the time, unfortunately, through the news. Some star, some actor, actress, or whatever, they're on drugs, they've killed themselves. Sometimes they'll do a forced overdose, might shoot themselves. Why? They had all the money, but they didn't have anybody loving them properly. loving them in an intimate way where they could be loved and they can understand love. Okay, so the next main thing, because again, today we're mainly talking about why you can't. So that's all of you can't find a good partner, because a lot of times we need to look at ourselves. We really do. You know, we need to look at the person in the mirror. And the person in the mirror is doing a lot. Okay, they're doing a lot behind your back. I kid you not. The person in the mirror is doing a lot behind your back. And so one of the things that you need to ask yourself is, are you likable? You know, we kind of talked about that briefly earlier, but again, are you likable? Okay, so Proverbs 14:1 says, a wise person builds their home, but a foolish person tears it down with their own hands. Okay, so you might have people that love you, that are doing things for you, that are bending over backwards for you, and you don't even appreciate them. You're not taking the time to say thank you. You're not taking the time to see what those people need. Okay, so look at Matthew 5:39-48. And this is, you know, evidently from what Jesus said. You know, if somebody slaps you on the right cheek, offer the other cheek. You know, if you are sued in court and your shirt is taken, give your other coat too. If a soldier demands that you carry his gear for a mile, carry it 2 miles. Give to those that ask, don't turn away from those who want to borrow. You have heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy, but I say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. Okay, be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. So why is this important? Because the whole concept here is, when was the last time you checked your own selfishness? When was the last time that you were the person that was giving in the relationship to the point that other people are like, oh my gosh, are you the taker? Are you taking everything? Now, we all have something that we think we give. Sometimes we think we're giving conversation. Sometimes we think we're giving time. Sometimes we think we're giving money. Many times we think we're giving, work. But we need to make sure that we're giving on all levels. You know, if somebody is talking to you, are you really listening to them? If somebody says, hey, you know, my hand hurts, my arm hurts, my back hurts, you know, are you quick to say, okay, well, let me rub your back, let me rub your arm? Or are you quick to say, oh, well, you know, I think you should make an appointment with your doctor or your masseuse, and then you just kind of look at them? You know, do you use a DoorDash in your life to take care of other people? So we have to realize the United States, unfortunately, and most of the world, as we talk about, that we have a real enemy in the world. And the enemy wants everybody to be selfish. They want them to be selfish, and they also want them to be lazy. And being in a relationship, you cannot be lazy. Okay, you have to work it. People say it all the time. You have to work it. Okay, and relationships are work. Do not get married if you do not want to work. Do not get in a relationship if you do not want to work. Do not get in a relationship if you going in saying, what can this person do for me? No, if that is your reason to get married, I am telling you now, don't waste your time, because you're just going to end up in divorce court. The people who get married and stay married are the people who are constantly giving. That is what God is constantly showing us. He's giving. We might be selfish. We might be mean. We might be this. We might be that. God's never like that. He's always giving. We are told to be like God. We're looking for relationship. Why can't we get in a relationship? Because we need to be more like God. We need to be more loving. We need to be more likable. We need to be in a place where we can help and bring more to a relationship instead of hurting the relationship. Now let's get into the unfun stuff. Okay, so this is the unfun stuff over here. If y'all thought the stuff before was bad, well, this is when it gets real kind of painful. Okay, have you dealt with your hurt? This has been on my heart for a long time. Definitely when I was going through the one of the first things that came to me. And even in this group, we talked about it over the last 2 weeks that a lot of people have not dealt with this. They have not dealt with your hurt. Now, I recognize everybody's gonna hurt a little bit. Okay, we're human. We're not perfect people. And you can't wait a million years before you finally figured it out. I mean, that's what grace is for. And that's what God and Jesus and the whole shebang is for. But you need to recognize it. You don't need to cover it. And you need to put it in a place where you can look at your own hurt and at least try to move beyond it. Okay. So in Proverbs, I mean, most of the stuff you can read, just trying to, show you that we have biblical backing here. But you have to, again, get to that point where you know that your heart is in a good place and that your spirit is not 100% broken, because you'll bring that into the relationship. Okay, you're going to bring that pain in. And then what's worse is you're going to blame the person that you're with for something that they didn't even do. And you're going to act accordingly. It's not just that you're going to blame them, but that you're going to act accordingly, because that's what we do when we're hurt. So what does that look like? Well, it looks like my last boyfriend or my ex-husband, he, would always, keep the house dirty. As soon as he walks in, he kicks off his shoes, he throws his jacket down. And so as soon as you start to talk to somebody, you're eyeing them, like, okay, is he going to come in the house and take his shoes off? Is he going to, what is he going to do with his jacket? Is he going to clean that up? You're already telling that person that they're guilty. And it doesn't even have to be with a, with a boyfriend. I mean, yeah, an old boyfriend. It could be with your father or your mother. Your mom always, burst into the room, with you growing up. And so now you think that every woman is going to burst into the room. Or you might have it in reverse, where you think, well, my mom always cooked and cleaned and did the dishes and washed my clothes. So now you're basically an old, even though you might be 40, you're acting like you're 15, thinking your mom's going to walk in and clean up the house for you. Your girlfriend is not your mom. Your wife is not your mom. You have to come up with your own rules and regulations on how you're going to run your house. Your wife might not come in. Your wife might not even be able to cook. A lot of women these days can't cook. So you can't come in with this mindset that somebody's going to take care of it. And you have to make sure that these ideas of hurt, of pain, of situations are taken care of, or at least are at the front of your mind before you go into a relationship. Okay, so here's something that is really starting to show its ugly head, especially in this group. And I want to make sure that I talk about it. So I'm going to talk about it in depth really quick. Proverbs 22:24-25. Do not befriend angry people or associate with hot-tempered people, or you will learn to be like them and endanger your soul. Okay, Matthew 7:15-20. Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravenous wolves. You shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, and a corrupted tree, blah, blah, blah. A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit. Okay, you shall know basically a tree by its fruit. Here's the thing. There are a lot of people out here that are hurting everyone even more than they're already hurt. They come up as dating coaches, dating gurus, all this kind of stuff. You can find them on YouTube. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on Meetup. You can find them out there on Clubhouse, wherever it is. But the thing that you need to be looking for is, are they walking in love? Are they disrespecting other people? Even if they don't agree with them, are they disrespecting, loving, kind, blah, 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 all those fruits of the spirit that Paul talks about, are they those types of people? Because here's the problem, and I've said this before, especially about a lot of these people on YouTube. Many of them are hurt. They are butt hurt, what I call butt hurt, when you're in that situation where all you can see is your pain. Okay, and when you're dealing with those types of people, they'll have 1 million people following them. And your first inclination out of your mind is, wow, this person must know what they're talking about because 1 million people are following them. And when I listen to them, it sounds like, yes, they're saying the exact things that I'm feeling. But the whole point is, you're hurt. They're hurt. What you're getting from them is just more hurt. Are they trying to fix the hurt? See, you see yourself in them, you see that energy in them, but the problem with seeing your energy in people like them is that all you're doing is like Proverbs 22, 24 through 25. You're learning to be like them. You're basically putting yourself in a pool, not of better people, but of just people to echo the anger and frustration within your own spirit. And if that anger and if that situation is not of God and is not the way that Jesus walked on the earth, then it's wrong, especially from a Christian perspective. Now, I understand we're all curious, and sometimes we hear about a person, and so we want to go check them out. I get it. I get it. I understand it. But we have to remember that we're called to walk differently, and you cannot ask God to send you somebody and then walk around believing, okay, a situation or believing information given to you by hurt people, because they're going to teach you to be afraid. They're going to teach you to put up blocks. They're going to teach you about all these things all these hurdles that you have to jump over in order to get the success. Where God says it's grace, they say it's a hurdle. Where God says it's love, they say, girl, you better watch out. So be careful who you're listening to, because if they're not talking about love and getting over through this combination of truly understanding love, then they're wrong. And I have to even check myself. Okay. And a lot of people, again, they've been hanging around. They know that God literally, and I think some of y'all don't quite understand that because the group's been around for a year. But, God literally has come in and he's kind of steered the group on a new course. And I'll admit, because originally the group was not supposed to be a teaching group. It was supposed to just kind of be a kicking it together group. So I kind of went in one direction. But, God has said, nope, nope, nope. I want it going in this other direction. And if you don't take it in this direction, me and you going to have some words. And that's one thing you don't want to do. You don't want to have words with God. So I was like, okay. So, and the reason why I'm saying this to make sure that you understand it is because even with me and some of the things that I taught and I even talked about in the previous year, God wasn't down with some of that. So now we're going into a different realm. But what God is showing me more and more is that this core that you guys need to understand is almost a dedication to loving. But you also have to watch yourself, especially when you're hurt, because when you're hurt, you will seek that echo chamber. You will, like this little character over here, you're going to be seeking another blue character to hug on to. Somebody like me that understands me, that understands my pain, instead of looking for the person who understands my pain but has already moved through it. Those are two totally different things. Somebody's still in the pain, or has somebody moved beyond the pain and now they can help you see clearly to get out through the pain. So you're looking for the person that's already through it, but then understands you. You're not looking for the person that's in it and wants to be in it and is staying in it. And in fact, they're making money by staying in it. Okay, so one of the things that, we also have to do, to make sure that we're doing what we need to do is we got to find a balance between this waiting, this listening, and this understanding of the heart. There's a balance between them, and you have to find that balance. So if you look at 1 Samuel 16, we see, the Lord said to Samuel, look, you've mourned long enough for Saul. Okay, so this is Samuel saying, hey, we got Saul, I want him to be, all that in a bag of chips. Can't we do something about, him? Can't you work on his spirit? Blah, blah, blah. The guy's like, look, you've done enough with this dude. Okay, he's not changing. And you know what? I rejected him as the king of Israel. So fill your flask and go with olive oil and go to Bethlehem. Okay, I selected one of his sons to be my king. And then Samuel got there and he's looking at the first son and he's like, man, this is God's dude right here. And God tells Samuel, man, please, I done rejected this dude. Get this fool up out of here. People judge by outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. So one of the things that we have to understand is people are constantly doing this thing where they say, well, I'm waiting on God, I'm waiting on God, I'm waiting for this, I'm waiting for that. God wants you to have your person, to be happy, to move and groove. God does not want you waiting forever. There's a lot of times in the Bible where, people are doing whatever, and God is like, okay, you can mourn for them. I'm gonna give y'all 2 weeks to mourn. But then he'd be like, okay, let's go. Like even when he was dealing with Moses and Joshua, when Moses was gone, God came to us like, okay, you done mourned. Okay, let's go. Let's get up into this promised land. So there's not this I do believe you have to wait on God. Like I said, there's a balance. But we also have to make sure that we're not waiting forever, because sometimes your king is out there and you just need to go get him, or your queen. But we also need to make sure that we're searching the heart. Okay, and we're not just looking at, woo, this girl is fine, and woo, this dude, he doing that to me. He giving me that tingle. Okay, because at the end of the day, that tingle come and go. And it could be a whole lot of people that can make you feel good and make you excited about life that maybe you haven't kind of tried that type of thing yet. So I said this for the last 3 weeks, and I'm gonna put it up here because I understand this whole thing with the list for a lot of people. We need to make sure that we are not, having these millions and millions of things that we want the person to be. Those that know me know that I don't believe that you should be with an unattractive person. I just don't, I know there's some people that have done it. I even heard pastors talking about it. But I also understand that people, want to enjoy their person. So, but I also recognize too, everybody likes something different. So I do think it is important for maybe attractiveness to be on your list, but at the same time, is it really at the top of the list, or is it, God, I need a 10 out of 10 type of guy or woman? Or can God, if I'm just attracted to them, if they're a 7 out of 10, or they're an 8 out of 10 when they dress up, God, I'm good with that. Do they love you, God? Do they have a good job? It might not be $1 million job, but do they make enough to take care of themselves, to do 1 or 2 activities a year, and also to maybe support one child, because I got enough money to support another child and to do what I want to do. So those are the types of things that really need to be on your list. Not so much about getting into all the details about does he like football or basketball or all these other little things, which really don't matter. Does he listen to K-pop, or does he listen, to salsa music or whatever? Because he might learn salsa, or you might teach him about all the great things of R&B or jazz or whatever it is that you like. Just because he doesn't like it now doesn't mean he won't. Like I really, like I said, K-pop, I actually got into K-pop at one time, because, a couple people got me into it, and I was like, wow, this is good. And I've dated some women that have got me into TV shows. So, one thing is it should not be a showstopper. You're probably not gonna have everything in common. Don't get so caught into all the lists. All those things are doing is just stopping you. Okay, so what we see through all of this is that, again, it's the person in the mirror. I know the person in the mirror been dirty to y'all. I'm so sorry. I'm praying for the person in the mirror right now. All week long, I have been praying to God for the person in the mirror, for each and every last one of you. And I know that you're going to get the better of that person. So this is one thing we have to remember about God. Okay, even, here's the whole thing. God is good. Okay, y'all can read it. God is good. He wants to bless you. He wants to give you good gifts. If you're not getting them, then there's something going on, unless he's working to bring that super awesome gift to you. So that's why I say sometimes you do have to wait on God, but we also have to keep it balanced as well. Okay, but God knows how to bring those good gifts to you. Okay, so we talked a little bit about the kingdom of heaven at the very beginning, and here's another passage to talk about. Okay, so when we understand about the kingdom of heaven and we apply that to us looking for love and the understanding of the type of person that we could be, okay, do you hear a message and then you just don't understand it, and you allow the world to come in and take that message away? Because sometimes it's easier to listen to the world and what they're saying, or listen to YouTube and what they're saying, instead of really recognizing that, hey, this other message over here, it's a little confusing, but there's something about it in my spirit that lets me know that this is the right place to be. Also, do you get in a relationship, but you don't have deep roots? So your relationships don't last long, okay? And then you fall away because you have problems. Because like I said, you can't get into a relationship and believe that everything's going to be perfect, that everything's going to be a certain way. You have to have a maturity about your relationships. So you have to have some maturity within you. Otherwise, all your relationships are going to be quick. And for the ladies, you should ask guys, how long has been your last relationship? If guys are constantly going in and out of relationships and none of their relationships are lasting a long time, then you need to be aware of these guys, because they don't have deep roots, and they might be really attractive. They might say all the right things, but ladies, that is a facade. And we've talked about that before. That is a huge facade, and you guys can get really caught up in that. Then, are you so worried about life and wealth that you don't get love? See, this fruit down here is love. So are you not getting love because you're just worried about money, and you're worried about doing this and doing that and having a car and having a house and having a this and having a that? And don't get me wrong, you can have those things. In fact, it's easier to have them with a committed, mature person by your side, it's much easier to have wealth. But the concept here is that what you're searching for? Is that in essence your treasure? If wealth is your treasure, then say it and be plain about it. Say, hey, to yourself, my treasure is money. I want money. I want to do things. I want to have a big house. I want to have a big car. I want to have, which remember that that selfishness. Okay, or do you say, I want to give it away. I want to have love. I want to, give information to children. I want to bless other people. I want to help other people. Or is it I that's bringing to me, or is it I that is giving away? Because the worries of this life and the lure of wealth will take love right up out of what you're looking for. And I know a lot of women can get really caught up in this, especially if they are, high ranking, got the CEO or president or, manager type, position with their master's degree, maybe 2 master's degrees, because a lot of women don't like dating men that make less money than them. Okay, but see, even that concept, even though it comes from a real place, it comes from a subconscious place where, women were looking for the protector, provider. But we live in a different society now. And the society we live in, okay, that is not as big of a concern anymore. So you need to understand, okay, if you meet a guy and y'all talking about having 2 kids, or maybe you've already been married, so you don't have, you don't want any kids, but he's saying, I just want to live in a modest house, drive a modest car, and that's the life I want to live. Is that a bad thing? Or do you have to have the Mercedes? Do you have to have the mini mansion, the 5-6 bedroom out on 2 acres in $1 million community, even though you're going to be in there by yourself? What's more important? Is it better to be in a small suburb where you're surrounded by love? Or is it better to be in a really nice neighborhood with your Mercedes, but every day you're getting up in a cold bed? So that is really the question that you have to ask yourself. So real quick on interracial, because I said I would talk about interracial a little bit. So the reason why interracial comes up a lot, I mean, we have multiple different races on this call. And I'm always down for all types of people. We love everybody over here at Christian Singles Connect. But I want to make sure that we kind of get some interracial relationship stuff kind of clear. And if this again twinges a part of your spirit, then I'm talking to you. Because that's how because if you're sitting there and you're listening, you're like, oh, this is good information. Oh, okay, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing. But if you're listening and you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about this. Oh, you looking around, you're trying to figure out something to do. You think about dropping the call. That's because you're listening to something that you need to work on. That's because that's something in your spirit that's bothering you. But anyway, interracial relationships. First of all, I have no problem with them. I don't think God has a problem with them. It's nothing, no issues as far as interracial relationships. So I'm not ever going to say anything bad about, that. So that has nothing to do with it. So I think this is a healthy type of interracial relationship where, you're just attracted to the people. You've always been open to other cultures. Whatever it is, if you're white, you're saying, hey, I'm down with Asians, I'm down with Blacks, I'm down with Latinos. If you're Black or Latino or whatever, you're saying, hey, I've always just, attractive people are just attractive people. As long as they're nice to me, I'm okay with it. That's healthy. This is very healthy. So, this one up here, there's no issue with it because love is in the middle of it. Attraction's there's no main issue. But the second one, this is happening more and more. And this is the one that I want to really go into because this right here is becoming problematic. And unfortunately, it does hit, Black people a little bit more, I think, just simply because of the way that we see it. But, it can hit anybody and everybody. So here's the main thing of it. You're basically hurt because you've been dating all of your type of people. And now, in order to fix this hurt, you're just simply running away, or you're abandoning, or you're just saying, you know what, I'm just not going to date those people anymore. And the reason why this happens, like I said, of this hurt and the ability to do it, is really what's going on is you're running into the same type of person. And your mind is thinking all of the green people, per se, are all the same. All green men act this way. They always cheat on you. They always lie to you. They always do this. They always do that. But in the end of it, it has nothing to do with green men or Black men or white men or Latino men or Indian men or Asian men. What it has to do with is the type of men that you're picking. See, in every single race, there are outgoing people, there are introverted people, fun-loving, nerdy, conservative, touchy-feely, whatever it is. These exist in every single race and in every single culture. But like I said, most of us date the same type of person that we dated when we were 15, 16, 17 years old. So what happens is if you go out and you date, for instance, a green guy that is, 35 years old, and, he happens to be sensitive. And all the guys you dated back when you were 15, 16 were a lot more outgoing, they were a lot more ambitious. So now you look down on this sensitive guy. You're no longer giving him the grace to see him as a unique person. You're looping him in with the race and the culture. And because of that, you're just immediately dismiss that person. So the person existed within your culture, within your race, but you just dismissed them because they weren't all that you thought that they should be. But what happens is, and I've seen this over and over again, people will leave their race or culture, go to another race or culture, and end up with the sensitive guy. The very type of sensitive guy that they would not talk to in their own culture, they will now talk to in another culture. Because their mindset is that, oh, well, this is so different. Because their skin, because of the way that they talk, because of the way that they act in other ways, it's acceptable or it's different, or I can find a way to kind of compute it. But when it's in my culture, if they look like me, if they sound like me, if they sort of dress like me, then I don't get it. But again, we're talking about what is stopping you from finding your person. So what you should be saying is, instead of saying, I can't find a good green man, I can't find a good Black man, I can't find a good white man, I can't find a good Latino man, you really should ask yourself, why am I attracted to these people? And get that little shock to yourself, okay, which is, why do I want that guy? I know he's a loser. I know she's a loser. Why do I want them? Why don't I want the good person? The person that's going to love me and take care of me and be there for me. And there are attractive people that are sensitive. There are attractive people that are shy. There are attractive people that are overbearing. There are attractive people that are nerdy, conservative, touchy-feely. Every single group has got attractive people. So you don't have to give up, to be like, well, that dude over there busted and ugly and this, that, and got one tooth, in his mouth and ain't got, the other ones. He only got one, not the other 31. But you need to ask yourself, why do you want the bad guy, as people say? Why do you want that? And it's not just about ambitions. Because a lot of women will say, well, I just like an ambitious guy. And guess what? Not all the bad guys are ambitious. Many of them, in fact, are not ambitious at all. In fact, when we talked about the strong woman 3 weeks ago, that's what was evident in that whole conversation, is that a lot of women will say, I'm after this certain type of guy. And guess what? It's really because they want to control the situation. They don't want to be in a place where they are allowing the man to be the man, as they say, but they're just going in and being in control of everything. And therefore, they're going for a certain type of guy. Like I said, and many times those dudes aren't in long relationships. They can be a little bit more pulling on the relationship. So at the end of the day,